The crowd surged forward as the train hissed to a stop, metal screeching against metal, the sound swallowing the station whole. She stood still, frozen just beyond the yellow line, her eyes locked on the blur of motion through the dirty glass windows. Her fingers tightened around the handle of a small, worn suitcase. Its leather edges were frayed like old nerves, and one side bore a faint coffee stain shaped like a crescent moon. A red scarf fluttered from her other hand, caught briefly in the breeze as the doors hissed open. It had once belonged to him. Or maybe to who she used to be before him. She didn't step forward. Not yet. Around her, voices layered like overlapping songs. A woman was arguing on her phone, a child cried softly, a man coughed with irritation. But her world had narrowed to the sound of her own breath. Shaky. Uncertain. Sharp around the edges. The lights above flickered once, and her gaze lifted, to the reflection in the glass. She didn't recognize the girl staring back. Eyes rimmed in sleepless gray, lips pressed too tightly to speak. She was wearing the same black blazer she had worn on that day, when everything shattered in the conference room. A voice, low and unmistakable, rose up in her memory. "Are you seriously accusing me of this?" That moment had cracked something inside her. Not because he lied, she had expected that, but because everyone believed him. Until they didn't. Her thumb rubbed absently over the zipper of the suitcase. It held only a few things, the scarf, an old cracked watch that no longer ticked, and a folder of resignation papers with a signature still wet at the edges. She took a step back from the platform. She wasn't here to leave. She was here to watch him go. Her eyes scanned the train's opening doors. Her breath caught as he stepped out, smiling, oblivious, suitcase in hand. The same confident posture. The same lie behind the eyes. He didn't see her. He never did. Not when she stayed late to fix the reports he deliberately broke. Not when she watched the CEO's eyes narrow on the falsified numbers. Not when the floor fell out from under his fabricated story. She wanted to feel triumph. She didn't. The red scarf slipped from her fingers. It fell in slow motion, catching on the wind like it had something left to say. She turned away before it hit the ground. And as his footsteps faded behind her, the suitcase felt heavier than ever. She sat on the metal bench just outside the station, suitcase by her feet, scarf gone, drifting somewhere behind her like a piece of memory she was too tired to chase. Her fingers brushed the cracked leather again, thumb tracing the fray. When it starts to fall apart, her father used to say, that's when you find out what's really stitched inside. He gave her this suitcase when she left for university, too big for her then, clunky and heavy. She had wanted a sleek new roller like the other girls. But he just smiled, said, "This one's got a story. You'll add your own." She didn't know it would carry more silence than clothes. The train had gone. She hadn't watched it leave. All around her, people spilled into one another, arms around shoulders, hurried kisses, dropped bags and laughter. One girl ran straight into her brother's chest, crying from joy. An old woman touched her husband's face as if she hadn't seen it in years. No one came for her. She hugged the blazer tighter around her, though the August air was warm. Her phone buzzed once. It was just a bank alert. Negative again. She was good at pretending it didn't matter. But it did. Her project had been her way out. A perfect pitch, months of data, every sleepless night poured into a clean, hopeful presentation. And then, corrupted files. Wrong charts. An accidental overwrite. She'd watched the CEO's face go from interested to cold in seconds. And Nathan, smiling that easy, practiced smile. She must have made a mistake. As if she wasn't the one who taught him how to use half those systems. She hadn't cried in that meeting. Not then. She waited until the elevator doors closed. Now, a quiet step on gravel pulled her attention. She glanced up. A man in a navy coat stood a few feet away, not speaking, just watching. Not in a threatening way. More like, noticing. He gave a small, polite nod. She nodded back, startled by the weight of that simple human exchange. Then he looked away, letting the silence settle gently between them. She opened the suitcase slowly, as if expecting something else inside. Her eyes fell on the cracked watch nestled in the corner. It had belonged to her mother, a nurse who always came home with soft hands and tired eyes. The watch stopped ticking the day she passed. She picked it up, held it near her ear. Nothing. Still nothing. Footsteps approached behind her, familiar ones. She felt them before she heard his voice. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Her breath caught. She didn't turn. Not yet. She didn't turn to face Nathan. Not because she was scared. Because she didn't trust herself not to scream. His voice had always carried that same careless tilt, too soft to sound cruel, too smooth to be sincere. He used it when he lied. When he said, "You can trust me." When he said, "I'd never throw you under the bus." Her fingers clenched the cracked watch, thumb pressing against the stopped dial like it could rewind everything. Or freeze it where it was, just before he ruined everything. Thunder grumbled low in the distance, a warning rolling across the horizon. The sky was dulling, smeared with gray, the kind that makes people rush indoors. But she didn't move. She wanted the rain to come. She wanted it to wash everything sharp. Nathan stepped closer, but she heard another voice first. "I wouldn't talk to him if I were you." She turned, startled. The man in the navy coat, still there, watching, quietly. This time, closer. There was something old about him, though he wasn't much older than her. It was in the way he stood, like life had asked too much of him too early. His shoes were worn at the sides, soles patched with tape. His coat had one missing button. And when he slipped his wallet back into his jacket, she caught the corner of a photo, creased and sun-faded. A little girl, missing a front tooth, smiling like the world hadn't yet told her no. He gave her a half-smile. Guys like that? They never see the damage they do. Just walk around like they're the ones who got hurt. The wind picked up. The first drop of rain hit her cheek like a cold fingertip. She didn't flinch. Nathan was pacing now, checking his phone, muttering. She could hear the irritation in his breath, like she was the one inconveniencing him. She looked back at the stranger. "You lost something too," she said. Not a question. More like a realization. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Didn't we all?" It hit her then, an ache she couldn't name. Something in the hollow space between her ribs where grief and recognition lived. This man, quiet and unnoticed, carried the same invisible weight she did. Betrayal. Loneliness. Some kind of collapse. The suitcase handle was cold in her hand now. Her body told her to leave. Her legs itched to stand. But her heart stayed. Raindrops dotted the cracked leather. Thunder cracked louder now, closer. Nathan finally noticed the man beside her and frowned. "Who's he?" She opened her mouth. But no answer came. Just the sound of rain, falling harder now. She stood. For a moment, the weight of her suitcase felt unbearable. Not for its contents, but for everything it had seen. Her grip trembled, but she took one step away from the bench, then another. The sound of her heels against wet pavement echoed too loud in the quiet. Nathan's voice followed her. "So that's it? You're just going to walk away?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. The stranger didn't follow, but she felt his eyes still on her. And that made it harder to breathe. She made it halfway across the platform before her knees almost gave out. A couple brushed past her, frowning slightly as if her sadness was an inconvenience. An older woman clutched her handbag tighter, stepping wide like heartbreak was contagious. She stopped under the rusted metal awning. Rain dripped in uneven taps on the tin roof. Her fingers loosened on the suitcase handle, the ache in her hand giving way to something deeper. And she almost let it go. She almost walked away from all of it. But then, hey, the voice was soft, almost swallowed by the rain. She turned. The man in the navy coat was holding something. Her red scarf. Wet now, edges darkened, but still bright. Still whole. She hadn't seen him pick it up. He stepped closer, then gently held it out. His fingers were rough, chipped nails, scarred knuckles, the kind of hands that had worked hard and been broken by it. His voice was lower this time, quieter. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. She swallowed hard, but her throat burned. He didn't ask questions. He didn't say you're strong or you'll be okay, he just stood there, offering back a piece of her that she'd let fall. And somehow, that hurt more than any of Nathan's betrayals. The scarf was heavier in her hands than she remembered. Not just fabric anymore. It had soaked up too many moments, shouts she never voiced, tears she never wiped, warmth she never asked for. In the distance, Nathan kicked a puddle in frustration and turned away, heading toward the street. He didn't look back. He never did. Behind her, the man turned too, starting to walk off into the drizzle, blending into the blur of strangers. She looked down at the scarf, then up at his retreating figure. And in that moment, she almost called after him. Almost. But the words caught behind her teeth, soft and unsure. The scarf pressed to her chest now like a question. And the answer? Still unsaid. Still coming. Later that night, she sat at the corner table of a coffee shop near the station, rain still clinging to the windows in streaks. Her fingers rested on the red scarf, now draped across her lap, the fabric warmer somehow, like it had taken in someone else's grief too. She was scrolling through job listings again, numb, automatic, when her breath caught. There it was. Senior Strategy Analyst, Veridan Group. Same title. Same position she had been gunning for before the sabotage. But something was different now. The listing was marked as internal referral preferred. She clicked on the company's profile, half out of habit. Then she froze. At the top of the page, smiling in a sleek dark suit, stood the man in the navy coat. James Veridan. Founder and CEO. The coffee cup shook in her hand. She blinked, leaned forward. It couldn't be. But there it was, in print. Her mind reeled back to his coat, the missing button, the photo in his wallet. The creased edges. The girl with the toothy smile. His daughter. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. The line echoed differently now. It wasn't just poetic. It was personal. She saw it all in reverse, how he never asked her name, but watched her with a knowing softness. Not pity. Recognition. How he had warned her about Nathan, unprovoked. How he had handed her the scarf like it mattered more than a stranger's kindness. Maybe it wasn't her story he'd been walking into. Maybe it was his. And now, he was the one standing between her and the next step. Not as a stranger, but as the man whose judgment could change everything. Her chest tightened. This wasn't just about the job. This was a point of no return. She could walk away, stay silent, let the weight of what she'd done and what she wanted press into each other until one cracked. Or, she could walk through the door. A single notification blinked on her phone, Veridan Group, interview confirmation. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. She didn't remember applying. But someone had entered her name. She looked down at the cracked watch in her bag, then at the scarf in her lap. Time didn't tick for everyone. But some people moved time forward without waiting for permission. She stood. Rain blurred the city lights outside. She walked out the door. Not knowing what would meet her on the other side. But knowing she wouldn't run from it anymore. The office waiting room was silent, save for the low hum of the air conditioner and the rhythmic tap of her shoe against the floor. Her hands were still, folded tightly around the red scarf. Not for comfort, this time, for courage. Across the glass doors, the city buzzed like it always had. But something in her had quieted. Hardened. Or healed. When James Verdon finally stepped out from behind the frosted door, he didn't look surprised to see her. He just said, "Come in." Inside, the office was simple, wood panels, soft light, and a single photo on the desk, the girl with the toothy smile. Time had creased the edges more than memory could. "You left before I could say thank you," he said, settling into the chair across from her. "I didn't think it was my thank you to take," she replied. A silence stretched between them, not cold, but full. He nodded toward the scarf in her lap. "That belonged to my daughter," he said, voice low. "She used to wear it when she was nervous." Said red made her feel seen. She inhaled slowly. "I'm not her," she said. "No," he agreed. "But you remind me of her." The fire. The silence. The wait. She blinked. "So that's why you invited me?" "I didn't say that." Another pause. "I saw how you watched him. Nathan. You didn't run to defend yourself in that meeting. You let the fall come slow. That kind of quiet isn't weakness," he said, leaning back, eyes steady on her. "It's strategy." Her throat tightened. "I didn't come here to be someone's shadow again." "You won't be," he said. "I'm offering you the role. On one condition." She tensed. "Let him go." Her breath caught. James leaned forward. "You already buried him with the truth. Don't bury yourself with him." She looked down at the scarf, fingers loosening. Somewhere, deep in her chest, something let go. She stood, slow and deliberate, and set the scarf on the edge of his desk. Her voice was quiet. "She deserves to be home." He looked at the scarf for a long time, then nodded once. His eyes didn't shine, but something in his jaw softened. She turned to leave. Her hand brushed the cracked watch in her pocket. She didn't need to take it out. She knew now, it didn't have to tick to still tell time. Outside, the sky was bright again. Same station. Same city. But she wasn't waiting anymore. She wasn't watching the train pass. She was the one walking away. Not escaping. Becoming. She didn't look back. Because some stories don't need a return trip. They just need an ending. Not every stranger you help is meant to stay, but some leave you changed forever. The apartment was quiet. She had opened the window just enough to let the wind in. Not the cold kind, this was warm, late summer wind. The kind that reminded you the season was turning, even if you didn't feel ready. On her desk, the cracked watch rested in a velvet-lined drawer. She hadn't tried to fix it. She didn't need to. Its silence had become something sacred. A pause between old versions of herself. The red scarf was gone now. Not lost, not forgotten. Just, passed on. To where it belonged. She stood by the window, one hand lightly gripping the curtain. The city outside pulsed softly, horns, laughter, the distant hum of a song playing somewhere beneath it all. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel swallowed by it. She was just a part of the rhythm. On the kitchen counter sat a folded letter, no name, no signature. Just a single line written in looping ink: "Sometimes love is not romance, it's recognition." She didn't know if it had been meant for her, or for someone who no longer walked this world. But somehow, it had found its way to her hands. Like the scarf. Like the chance to begin again. There was no job title taped to her door. No victory parade. Just the small, private kind of peace that came from knowing she hadn't become what tried to break her. She still remembered the way Nathan looked as he walked out of that office for the last time, confused, a little wounded, the weight finally his to carry. But she had felt no satisfaction. No gloating. Only the quiet click of a door closing behind him. The kind of closure you don't need to watch to believe. She brewed a cup of tea and took it to the balcony. Sat barefoot in the chair her mother once gave her, and let the sky do the talking. There was no plan. No clear next step. And for once, that didn't scare her. She took a sip, closed her eyes, and let the warmth settle her. Maybe she wouldn't see him again, the man in the navy coat with quiet eyes and stories folded into his wallet. But he had given her something she didn't know she needed: permission to walk away without needing to be right. To start again without burning everything behind her. Maybe some strangers are just mirrors, meant to show us who we are before we forget. And maybe the ones who leave quietly are the ones who echo the longest.